Good evening and welcome to the village board meeting for the village of Pleasantville. Wow, I'm getting an echo. I feel important. Today is Monday, June 24. If you're watching live on Monday, June 24, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions. Our call-in number is 769-1677. As always, you can watch us live on Verizon or Optimum Cable TV. And within a few days, you can pick up an on-demand webcast of this and or previous meetings at pctv76.org. Our next regular meeting is 2 weeks from today, Monday, June 24, at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. Wanted to report briefly that we had a work session that began at 7 and will continue. And one of the things we were discussing was some procedural matters associated with the development at 70 Memorial Plaza. That is the building proposed to be built next to the post office, which is the subject property for the excavation that's going on right now, taking down the rock. A whole bunch of people have asked, I think, questions to all of us about that project. The building inspector, Robert Hughes, reports that the rock removal, although noisy and difficult for folks nearby, is proceeding perhaps even a little better than was hoped. No big problems have arisen, and the heavy work is expected to go on for perhaps another 8 to 12 weeks, depending on whether any unexpected developments happen and depending on the weather. So we recognize that it's required the patience of folks nearby, but it is moving along quickly, and I think the best thing for everybody is for them to rock and roll, no pun intended, get the job done and be finished with that part of the project. So I have a bunch of announcements tonight, but the first item on our agenda tonight is our annual recognition of the PIA student ambassadors. Pleasantville International Association has been going on for now 40 some odd years. Have I got that right? I think that's about right. I can report that my own daughter was a PIA ambassador and went to Costa Rica, that now being something like 15 years ago. So this is the annual night when we fire up the Village of Pleasantville office of the State Department. And it's a great night not only to congratulate the Pleasantville High School students who have decided to fly off around the world to various countries this summer, but also to encourage them to remember us back in Pleasantville, to represent Pleasantville well when they get there, and as is always part of the PIA process, when they come back, to tell us about their experiences in those other countries. So we have 3 students tonight. I think 2 are available tonight. So if I could ask you guys to come on up. I'm pretty sure that Ryan Burton is the one who is not here. Yeah. Ryan, is that because he's at the Metros tonight?
Yeah.
The annual high school theater awards are going on tonight, and Ryan had been a part of a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. So we're rooting for Pleasantville tonight at the Metros. Ryan is headed off to Thailand, Ella Agabab to Ecuador, and Carolyn Lee to Costa Rica, following a decade and a half later in my daughter's footsteps. So I just want to say, as I have thought so many times, not only when we see you guys standing up and saying, hey, I want to do this, but also when we see you come back, that not only is it a great thing for Americans to go into other countries and to represent our country and our way of life so well, but also to find out what the experiences are in other countries and to bring them back. God knows we're at a time when shared experiences and shared relationships around the world are more needed than ever. And I say with great respect that it's an act of not inconsequential courage to say, hey, I'm going to fly off to a foreign country. I'm going to leave the friendly confines of Pleasantville, New York, and in many cases live for a period of time with another family. Is there a homestay involved in both of your trips? it's a jumping off into the deep end to do that. And I can say, having interviewed folks when they come back, and perhaps I will interview you, that oftentimes that homestay has been the most rewarding aspect of all. But I remember with great clarity, one of the leaders from Experiment in International Living came and made a presentation in the years when I was involved, and my daughter was thinking of going, and he told the story of a student who had gone to China and was literally paralyzed with anxiety at the moment when he was headed off to the homestay, and then 2 or 3 weeks later equally upset about the idea of leaving. So congratulations to both of you, and to Ryan and Absentia, who hopefully will come back with some metros for Pleasantville High School. We have some Pleasantville backpacks for you, and here's the quid pro quo. Picture of you with this in Ecuador and Costa Rica. Is it a deal?
Yes.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We wanted to present you
Here,
with
come on up to the mic
picture.
here.
On behalf of the students who went last year, we just
Oh,
wanted to
wow.
present you with the picture profile.
Look at that. All right, so the bar has been set.
Some shoes to fill, look at that one.
Can you get that shade on the,
Is that keto on the left?
yeah. So that's it, that's great.
Mhm.
All right, well, we look forward to hearing about your exploits. When do you go?
I leave July 1st.
Uh-huh.
I'm not.
Uh-huh.
Sehr gut.
All right.
Wait, guys.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Whoops. We will get Ryan.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good luck.
Who's going to take charge of getting this to Ryan?
I will.
Can we leave that in your able hands?
Sure.
All right.
Congrats.
Congrats to both of you, congrats to Ryan, and congrats to the many generations of parents, including the current group of parents who make PIA possible. I can say with certainty, and my daughter would say if she were here, that taking a trip like this is not something she would have thought of had it not been for the fact that she saw folks like you in the years ahead of her doing it. And so you blazed the trail for the next group. Thank you. All right, I had a few announcements to make. One is on behalf of Pleasantville Strong. There is an event going on tomorrow night, Tuesday, June 11 at 7 p.m. at the Clinton Street Senior Center, corner of Clinton and Wheeler, which is a social host community forum. So the brochure says having a prom party, graduation party, a senior celebrating party. Join us and find out more from experts in the field of law, enforcement, and prevention about how to keep your summer celebrations safe. We'll be sharing information about having conversations about Westchester County social host law, the Good Samaritan law, Leandra's law, and the New York State dram shop law. Join the conversation, learn how to keep your family and your property safe. So that's tomorrow night, 7 p.m. The short version of a long story is that the homeowner or the parents who allow a party to go on where illegal consumption of alcohol and other things happen can be legally liable, and indeed there is a precedent for that here in the village of Pleasantville. So with all the great parties that are likely to be happening soon, it is everybody's sincere hope that they are great and happy events and not a problem for anybody. So really, really hope that folks who might be the hosts of such an event could show up tomorrow night, Tuesday, June 11 at 7 p.m. at the Clinton Street Center. And thanks for the folks at Pleasantville Strong for putting that together. A couple of other things to mention. I had the good fortune to honor two Pleasantville brothers, the Promisels, both achieving Eagle Scout status. Noreen and I attended, Noreen having helped Will Promisel quite a bit with his effort to get a defibrillator down at Parkway Field. So two brothers achieving Eagle Scout on the same day is an achievement that, first off, not too many individuals achieve at all, and to have two sons in the same family do it on the same day is a credit to both of them and to their dad, Ira, who is the Scoutmaster and soon to step down. Fire Department Parade was a great event a week and a half ago. Congratulations to the Pleasantville Fire Department for its 125th anniversary parade, one of the great nights in Pleasantville, and we congratulate everybody at PVFD. Be reminded that the Music Fest is coming up Saturday, July 13. Get thee to pleasantvillemusicfestival.com. You can click in to buy tickets there. It is a big help to everybody to buy tickets in advance, and so we encourage you to do so. You can also buy tickets down at the rec center and avoid the online fees if you prefer to do so, but mark your calendar Saturday, July 13. Get to pleasantvillemusicfestival.com and you can find all the information about the lineup and the day's events. We have a great lineup as always, 3 different stages, many different bands, vendors, food, kids events, all kinds of fun stuff going on. And then the last mention I wanted to make, those of you who are on our email list will have already gotten the reminder that the first installment of village taxes are due this month, need to be postmarked before July 1. And if you didn't get that email, it means that you have never gone to pleasantville-ny.gov and in the left-hand column clicked into subscribe to news. So I really encourage everybody to do that. And while you're at it, sign up as an additional effort to the Code Red emergency notification system. 2 quick things to do, both in the left-hand column at pleasantville-ny.gov. The first, make sure that you get timely information about events and things like bills that are due. The second gives us an opportunity in the event of an emergency to reach out to you via email, via text, via cell phone, via landline, the various ways you might want to do it. I've said before, and I will say again, that during Superstorm Sandy, one of the problems we had, as did every other community in the region, is that lots of folks were out of power, some of them out of telephones. Had we had a means of reaching out to you in other ways, we could have fed information to you, and so we signed up to be a subscriber to the Code Red system, which is a provider. We will only use that for emergency purposes, never for anything else, and we encourage you to sign up. Other reports? Announcements? Okay.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the Westchester thing. Did you talk about the walk into the light?
The what?
Walk into the light.
Oh, no, but you were there as well. I should have mentioned that. Absolutely. You want to talk about
Much
it?
more eloquent than I am.
Go for it.
So on Sunday morning, the community gathered bright and early at 4 in the morning to honor and to, I guess, perpetuate the legacy of Brian Halloran, passed away a year and 5 months ago, and help raise awareness for suicide, mental health, suicide prevention and mental health. The organization founded by his parents and his family called Break the Hold has made tremendous, I think, inroads, both here in Pleasantville, but also in neighboring towns and in Westchester County, to just raise awareness and talk about this as a national crisis in a way. That the struggles that young people and frankly people of all ages go through to try to handle some of the concerns that they have and the thinking that they have. So I know that some of their work in particular has resulted in people not following through with things that they had in mind that was self-harm oriented. And one of their real proponents is a member of the Pleasantville graduating class this year, Garrett Carney, who we honored here a few weeks ago. He intervened in a suicide attempt and saved a woman's life. So it was a great day to see how many people, I mean, there were hundreds of people that got up and walked during this event through the streets of Pleasantville holding candles, and I was just really glad to see the community come together like that.
Thank you for that, Steve. I should have mentioned that as well. Really, as Steve said, how remarkable it is that hundreds and hundreds of people not only got up on a Sunday morning at 4 a.m., but paid for the privilege to do so to help support the Break the Hold Foundation. So a uniquely Pleasantville event, and the Halloran family just has taken this tragedy and found a way to wring something good out of it.
Yep.
Just as has been the case all these many years for the Tina Gambino Foundation, another uniquely Pleasantville charity. So quite a day, and one of those days when one is
Proud to be
proud to be a part of it, and proud to see how many people answer such a call. All right. With that, resolution number 139, Nicole.
Whereas,
I'm sorry, before I do that, was there any comment from the public? Or, oh, feel free, welcome.
As you know, my name is Tom Rooney at 26 Hillview Drive in Pleasantville. And I just want to make a few statements about things that have been said in the past and get some hopeful answers of things to be done in the future. I know a traffic study was done not so long ago by one of your professionals and came out with a basic answer that there is no traffic problem in Pleasantville.
Could I, well, keep going and then I'll comment to that.
The amount of and that's related to the number of parking spaces and everything else during the one-day period that this person did this survey. That being said, there is a traffic problem in Pleasantville, and there is a parking problem in Pleasantville. There's a walking problem in Pleasantville, and there's a street problem in Pleasantville, and none of it's being addressed. What's being addressed is all the new business and none of the old business. The new buildings that are going up all over town, whether you're pro or con, it's making a mess of the village in terms of the streets, the traffic, the congestion. They block off the spaces with construction vehicles. I know it's necessary and it can't be helped, but it's still being done. Just when you think roads in the village could not possibly get worse, the utilities are digging them up again, such on Bedford Road by Romer Avenue and down to Great Oak. And then they take their iron steel plates and they block off a whole lane next to by the Girl Scouts building there. So if you weren't paying attention and you're coming down the road and to make a turn, you're going to drive into a steel plate, possibly. I should say a stack of steel plates. The roads and the traffic lights, I read recently that the traffic light that is on, that exists at the intersection of Wheeler and Manville, there is talk about eliminating that traffic light or doing some studies about that. You can't turn onto Wheeler Avenue with the traffic light. So I don't know how you're going to possibly think you're going to be able to safely turn onto Wheeler from either direction without a traffic light there. The way the traffic lights are sequenced need addressing because they're all wrong in terms of when one is green. I mean, I can't go into the specifics, but for example, when you're coming up Manville Road and you're at the first traffic light, the one that's on Wheeler Avenue, you pass the first traffic light and then the second one to go on to turn left on the Washington Avenue. I don't know what the series of this is, but sometimes there's an arrow that you can turn left, which is good. But most of the time, that left arrow never comes up. I don't know what time of day it comes on. I don't know what time it's programmed for. But that arrow should be there like all the time, so that if you are trying to avoid an accident, you have an arrow to get there. Same should be done at the intersection of Pleasantville Road and Bedford Road. There is no arrow there ever. And you're coming down Pleasantville Road towards Pleasantville, and it's worth your life to turn left at that traffic light. I know that firsthand because several years back, my wife had a serious accident at that because somebody blasted through the light coming the other way and hit her head on. Thus, if there was an arrow there, that would never happen. The condition also with the traffic lights, I don't know how to fix it. When Cooley Street does become two ways and exits out onto Manville Road, I don't know, is there going to be another traffic light there? Because right now, people just coming out of the parking lots back there during rush hour time have a very difficult time turning definitely left and a hard enough time turning right getting out of there. And there is no traffic light there now. I mean, the last thing I would like to see in this town is another traffic light, or at least the ones that are there should be programmed so that in some synchronization they work together to make a bad situation better. Finally, I wish that all the time and effort and money that is being spent for this memorial project of the green space and all the monies that are going to be allocated for that, I wish that monies could also be allocated to fix these roads in this town. The road in my neighborhood is the original road from 1960. We are down to the original blacktop, complete with potholes. And routinely, the street sweeper, as they come through, it just is scraping off the 10-year skim coat that was put on that road 10 years ago. The road is shot. The intersection between Grandview and Great Oak, it's just a pothole disaster. As the intersection between Grandview and Hillview, you round the turn and you got to hold on to that wheel. The curbing, the town comes through. The town came through a few weeks ago on my street, Hillview, and they replaced sections of the curbing. I don't know why they replace a section in front of House A and then do not replace as equally bad section in front of House B. So I don't know what they're doing. I mean, what they're doing with the curb is putting a Band-Aid on something because they're not really repairing it. They're just putting a skim coat of asphalt on top of it. When winter comes and the snow comes, that's going to be destroyed by the plow. It's not a curb. It's just something to appease people. The traffic in the town now, as of today, at best, is bad. It gets terrible, as you know, at certain times of the day and the week. I don't know what plans you have in mind that's going to possibly make this better when all this construction is done. When we have a total of 200 plus apartments new to the village that is going to just take a bad traffic scene and make it terrible. And the fact that in past meetings, I've been told that, oh, well, these people are not going to have cars, all of them, or this, that, or the other thing. They're all going to be walking. That's a dream world, and that's your opinion and not others. The fact remains is that I hope you do have some plan in mind to do something about this traffic situation, not only as of today, but as of when these other apartments and businesses are being built. I understand the building at 70 Manville there next to the post office.
70 Memorial.
Memorial is, it's something that is going to bring revenue into the town. That's all well and good. But it's also going to bring however many more people in those apartments in the town that it's kind of gridlocked now. So I'm also would like to get on record saying that the next two phases of buildings that are proposed apartment buildings, please think hard and long about that. This is a nice little town, or I should rephrase that. This was a nice little town. Now it's a nice big town. It's not the little Pleasantville, and I'm not saying this as a dinosaur of the past. I'm saying this as a resident in this town who's been in this town and probably knows every nook and corner of this town. But what's happening to those nooks and corners of this town is they're being filled up with apartment buildings. I mean, I really don't understand why this town needs all these apartment buildings. You need to develop the land, develop it in another way. The retail stores that your planning committee was talking about, the work session just before this one, every new store that comes in is very possibly going to be detrimental to all the older stores that are already here. Now I heard that, Starbucks doesn't compete with Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, but a gift shop on Wheeler Avenue will compete with a new gift shop in any of the new buildings that are going to come up. So there's a lot of ramifications. Also, what I heard in the work session, and maybe I heard this incorrectly, that the proposed angle parking spaces in the Memorial Plaza area by the new building, the building by the post office, when backing out of those spaces, I heard that you may have to back across the yellow line to get enough room so that you could turn the wheel to go the other way. If I did hear that correctly, then I don't know what the planning board's thinking about, because to cross a double yellow line backing up is not really a good idea.
Just what I believe was said was that folks who were trying to get around a car that was stopped in the drive aisle would cross the double yellow line. I don't think what was said was that backing out legally out of a legal parking space would require crossing the double.
It's just
All right.
15, they're 15
And
folks.
and one of my last points
Yeah.
too is when the Memorial Plaza project is finished. Right now, the slip lane that will be closed in front of the memorial, that's the spot where at any given time of the week where you will see a tractor trailer truck or a box trucks parked there to make their deliveries to the diner and to all the other stores on that block. What provisions are going to be made for the deliveries of these trucks? Because now there's also cars that right now, when you're during the peak of the day, they will just double park right in front of Starbucks with either somebody in the car or not in the car and go in the store. And the car is just sitting there and you got to go around it. And I also mentioned this to some of the police officers, saying, you can get a lot of income if you just stand in front of the diner area, for any given time of the day, to catch all these people doing things that can't be done. So, that being said, is there any plan of when the roads in Pleasantville are going to be resurfaced? From the street I live on to Washington Avenue. I once said that Washington Avenue is a really, really bad rutted road, which was true, but now it's a cow path. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. You can't even make the cream anymore on that road, Peter, because the ruts are too deep. So what is the plan going forward with roads?
All right, so are you finished?
Yeah, that was
All right,
pretty
so
much
let's
it.
kind of work backwards here. First off, we invest in roads every year, not to the degree you wish we did, but a few things to be said. First off, I've personally been on your road, and you pointed out personally exactly what the issues were, and I understand them. I would not describe it as a crisis condition, but your neighborhood was one of those neighborhoods that was built in what? Was it the 60s?
1960.
Okay, so I don't doubt that when your neighborhood was built, the same kind of arguments went on about increase in population and cars and all of that, but whatever. At the time, there were fewer constraints on developers to do things right. And I think we shared a conversation, some of the houses weren't built quite right, and you all have had to fix that up. I think the same is true of the roads. So we invest several $100,000s a year in road improvements, and whether you think we're on keeping up with it or not is, I understand your feelings about it. Let me just say that Manville Road is a state road, and Bedford Road is a county road, and the work that Con Ed is continuing to do that you referred to on Bedford Road is frustrating to all of us. As you can imagine, you've doubtless heard us converse in the past about the kind of notice we get about this and when they choose to do it and the disruption and the conditions they leave in the end, but they are always doing work that needs to be done, resolving gas main breaks, upgrading century-old gas mains. This is work that has to be done. There's never a great time to do it, but I can tell you that Jeff Econom, our Superintendent of Public Works, is extraordinarily diligent at chasing Con Edison to make sure that when they leave, we get the maximum benefit from the repair work and the restoration of it, and that's the case at Bedford Road as well. There isn't any way to replace a gas main on Bedford Road and have it not be a mess for people. So the plates and the detours and all of that are extraordinarily frustrating, especially at school times. I totally get it. I'm totally with you, but I just want to make that point. You commented about the traffic light. You are correct in reporting that there's discussion about getting rid of the traffic light at Manville and Wheeler. And the piece you didn't report is that this wasn't our idea. When those two lights were put up 20 some odd years ago, when Wheeler was changed from being a two-way street to a one-way, New York State put up those lights. Ever since then, there has been a steady comment from members of the public that they find them confusing for some of the reasons you described. There's a moment when you're headed down Manville, headed towards the train tracks, and you can have a red light, but if you happen to focus on the green light that's 150 feet further down the road, you end up with people blasting through the red light when they should have stopped because they imagined, oh, there's a green light. Just one example of the trouble we've had. So we, in the category of doing the right thing, went back to the state DOT, Department of Transportation, and said, you know, we're getting these comments. We've always gotten these comments. What can be done about this? They came back and said their lights on their road are is a non-standard condition, and it needs to be changed. So guess what? The two options so far on the table are to take away the light that's at Wheeler, potentially with the impacts you just described, but also with some benefits, or to go through a several $100,000 venture to study an alternative and put in an entirely different light that would be its own circuit controller, and that would be a village responsibility, believed to be $400,000, something to that effect, that absent the village doing that, the state is going to put that light on a list of non-standard lights that when they get to it, they will remove. So, a useful conversation, an interesting discussion that continues about what goes on at that intersection and how it could be made better or worse. But the overlay is, we didn't hatch the idea to take that light out. We are presented now with a new reality, which is the state says either the light has to go at some point or it has to be expensively changed, and that would be on our dime. So that's where we are with that. More later. You started out by saying that we did a traffic study by some guy for one day, and he said there isn't a traffic problem. So the traffic study was by Hudson Valley Engineering Associates. We, after various reviews and comments from the public, we extended that study, had them extended to an additional day. They compared all their numbers with the background numbers from data that New York State Department of Transportation collects about the traffic on their roads. We compared it not only to their background data of each year, but also to the background data that we have from the previous study that was done more than 10 years ago, interestingly pointing out that there were actually, at that specific intersection at Grant Street and Manville Road, fewer cars going through than there were 10 years ago. Interesting story and some ideas about why that might be true. But we then had that study peer-reviewed by Frederick P. Clark Associates, planning firm that we've had a long relationship with, and said, okay, these guys, Hudson Valley Engineering, which includes a number of former DOT engineers, did this study. F. Pleat Clark, you take a look at it. They looked at it, kicked the tires of it, made a few useful suggestions, but have now ratified it. Then this study, ratified by two folks, was given to the state DOT, which is the ultimate arbiter of this because it's their road, and they looked at it and has essentially come to the same conclusion. The conclusion is not there's never a traffic problem in Pleasantville. The conclusion was closing the slip lane and revising the intersection at Grant, Memorial Plaza, and Manville between the War Monuments and Valvoline to add a dedicated right turn lane and to modify the light as proposed will not produce a traffic problem. They didn't say there's no traffic problem. They said the change we are making is not going to make it worse. So I just want to be clear on that because you sort of left the impression to folks who might be listening at home that we're all Pollyannas who say, oh, there's no problem. I've lived here for 35 years. I know you've lived here your entire life. My day job is at 42 Wheeler Avenue. I spend 7 days a week, excepting the moments when I'm headed off to try to make money with clients who I have to go visit. I am here all the time. I know a lot about what's good and bad, and I know the problems you identify. The problems you identify are, I have to say, not, I think, so much related to development that's gone on in the community, because honestly, there hasn't been much. Now we see a sudden jump going on right now, but the world has changed in the 35 years since I lived here. The number of people that have more cars, the number of people driving, the number of people who are using Pleasantville as an east-west route to get across county who don't originate here or end here, are just trying to get through. All those things are factors, and believe me, we think about them every single day. There isn't a single day that I don't give some thought to these matters, and not a fiber of my body interested in doing anything other than to make them better. But I will say what you present as, impending disaster, which is the redevelopment of moribund parcels, isn't an option we have either. Because you look at a parcel like the one next to the post office, now the site of this excavation and the proposed new building at 70 Memorial, that property has been moribund, completely empty for quite a long time, and nearly empty for quite a long time before that. We're not in a position where it's either A, realistic from the standpoint of the tax base and the taxes all of us individually have to pay, as well as the vitality of the community, to say we're just going to let major parcels in our downtown devolve into nothingness. So a little bit of a rant, and I don't mean to aim that at you, other than to say these are the issues we're struggling with.
Right, I understand that, but the development is good, but it's what is going into that development that I'm questioning. Why does it have to be all these new apartments going all over the place? And the village does have a say about it. You could have said no to that if you wanted to, because you had to change the zoning for that to happen.
Just let's be clear about that. We changed the zoning in one block as part of a 2-year-long process, and that is the block that includes essentially bounded by the Valvoline Diner, post office, all the way down to the proposed new chicken place, down Bedford, the block between Cooley and Memorial Plaza and Manville and Bedford. We changed the zoning to allow in that location 4-story building instead of 3. Everywhere else in the A1 downtown business district, it is limited to a maximum of 3. Why did we change it? We changed it because the aforementioned moribund property, literally a building collapsing around itself, was never going to be redeveloped economically to under the current zoning, because you had to knock down the building and then you had to knock down the rock, and our zoning quite rightly says you build some new apartments, you have to provide on-site parking. It's not the public's responsibility. So what was the bottom line? That was one of the key reasons that building sat there all that time, because nobody could afford to redevelop it. So we made that change. The other projects you see, like for example, the apartment project, the former Try and Buy site, 23 apartments with retail on the first floor and on-site parking below and behind, is entirely as of right. That could have been built 20 years ago. The zoning has, I say 20 years ago, I think maybe residential zoning downtown was changed something like 17 years ago. But what's the reality? The reality is the only change that this board has made that permitted development that wasn't otherwise permitted is in that one location, in that one block, which has allowed the development of Centennial Memorial. And I can speak for myself, but I dare say my colleagues and most of the colleagues who participated in that lengthy review of what to do there, who are not on the board now, believe that A, that's a location where 4 stories is reasonable and appropriate, and B, it was appropriate to make that change to avoid a circumstance where we continue to see a significant and important piece not contributing to the community. So, I mean, I point out, just saying, as I pointed out to a number of other people, that the Chase Manhattan building here at the corner, diagonally opposite Village Hall, is a 5-story building. So nobody's talking about 5-story buildings. We're talking about a 4-story building and are only allowed in that one location. So what's the reality? Folks who own private property have private property rights. We don't sit here and say we have any right to tell you that you can or cannot do something other than our control over zoning. The zoning exists as a composite of laws that have existed over various decades and have been changed over time. We went through a very thoughtful process to change it over by the post office block, but I can tell you, and you probably could tell me in your many years here, periodically folks propose to do something on a site that they could have done many years earlier, but they didn't have the money or the interest or the economic incentive to do it. What we're confronting right now in the current environment is a significant interest in folks who would like to live in a vibrant small downtown, especially near a train station. So that's going on all over Westchester County. Perversely, just as lots of us who've been here a long time feel as though it's one heck of an expensive place to live, it actually looks like a good deal in comparison to the likes of living in Brooklyn and Manhattan and various places around. So, you know, we struggle mightily to try to balance all of these things and keep Pleasantville in the ways that I think you and I probably are almost completely in agreement about. But what I can say, and I say this with some conviction, is, you know, there always will be and always have been some folks that move for their own reasons that perhaps are not so much attracted to the zen of Pleasantville, but a whole lot of people who move here and a whole lot of people who are interested in these apartments are interested in living here for the same reasons you and I landed here and put down roots here and have stayed. So,
May I make a comment about the apartments as well?
yeah.
So, as Peter has spelled out, we don't dictate, right, what goes in a particular space. We can affect the zoning, but we don't choose what goes in the location. But I personally, based on, you know, what I've read and what I've learned from speaking to people in public planning in various fields, have come to think that it's a good thing that we're getting more apartments in the downtown. Of course, you know, you don't want an unlimited number, but one of the benefits of that is that it really contributes to a more vibrant downtown. And I think one of the things that makes Pleasantville so attractive is that we do have this walking downtown where you can still shop. I mean, I'm amazed at the number of things that I can walk to, the number of amenities that are available, you know, in what is at the same time a small community, a sort of an intimate feeling community. But for that to continue to be the case, especially in the age of the internet and Amazon and all of that, you obviously have to have customers on a regular basis. And having some apartments in the downtown area means you have more foot traffic, you bring more customers to the downtown, and that sort of reinforces that aspect to it. It also means that you, for example, supply some housing for seniors who you know, are no longer able to handle living in a house. I know that there's been a lot of interest by older people at the former Try and Buy property, for instance. So, you know, it's a balancing act, and the world is changing, and sometimes it's not changing exactly the way we would like to. But I do think that as a community, we stand to benefit as well from that.
It would be a benefit if some of these apartments were for the for the older set of people, I'm not saying I'm not talking like a Clinton Street type of apartment, but I'm talking about just reasonably priced apartments that basically does not exist in town.
Sure.
I mean, the prices of the old Mar building, the nice-looking new building on Washington Avenue, the one with some architectural style to it. I understand some of those apartments in there are renting for, way over $2,000 a month for maybe a two-bedroom apartment. I'm not sure of that. But the thing being is, I mean, we had the opportunity, or the town had the opportunity to get a retirement type of apartment or some type of rehab type home for the elderly people at the church in the Old Village. And for whatever reason, that was shot down, and that church just sits up there idle at this point now. So it just up there somehow there was enough people voicing the issue, I guess, that they didn't want that type of building in the Old Village and in the old church. But then there's a lot of people down here in the village here who think this is just as bad as that up there. So it depends who you look at, and I don't know why that didn't get developed up there. That would have been a lot more income for the village as well.
Well, not really, actually. Sorry to interject on that, but actually, to do the math on that whole project,
Yes.
and it was almost minimal. There was very little net revenue benefit to the village, and many of the same reasons that you're arguing for the, sort of keep Pleasantville. Pleasantville was the same argument that a lot of people took up there, that you're not going to take a 3.5 acre parcel and put an 85,000 square foot commercial 4-floor building in the middle of a hillside. It didn't fit. That wasn't what they bought Pleasantville, right?
Well,
So there were some similarities to that argument, but it wasn't a net, it was not at all a net revenue
Well,
gain to the
the
village.
fact remains is that there was opposition to that, and it didn't go.
It didn't go. It
didn't go,
required a
sure.
zoning change.
Right, we
Yeah.
needed to change that to a commercial district.
Yeah.
It's a residential, single-family home.
Right.
It's really a whole different situation than
They're
what we deal
apples
with
and
here.
oranges.
Because this is already a commercial district. And where this new building is going, their argument to sort of try to keep the little village feel would have been to put one house on the top of that rock. I mean, it just would never have happened, to Peter's point. It would have stayed empty.
Is
A long time.
the property yet to be developed at the old DeLuca gas station garage on Vanderbilt DPU? Is that said also to be more apartments when
Well,
that's
it's
developed?
zoned in a commercial district.
But
So-
just because it's zoned in a
Right.
commercial district, must it be apartments?
So
I mean,
that project at the old Leduca Auto, adjacent to the sawmill, not absolutely clear what's going on. My belief is that the developer has purchased it and proposes to build an apartment building there. There are a bunch of issues, including the fact that it is a contaminated site and is now on the brownfields list. But again, the zoning permits residential on that site. I was not a party to the decades ago writing of that zoning. It's been that way for a long time. I'm pretty sure that nobody anticipated that that would be a desirable site to build apartments. But that's what he has proposed, and the world is different from what it was then. So we'll see what he presents. But again, the important piece is folks, including all of us, will have varying opinions about whether we like a project or not, whether we like the way it looks, whether we like the way it works from a circulation standpoint, whether we think it's a net positive or a net negative. But if the zoning permits it, we don't get a chance to say no.
That won't come to us.
Right? So that project, if he proceeds with it, by the representation he's made so far, and the tires you have to be kicked on this, is what he claims is an as-of-right project. If it's as of right, he has the right to build it. I mean, we.
And would have
right.
had that right if Leduca had packed up
Right.
shop 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So the fact that there are all these apartment buildings, that those are essentially market forces,
It's a
right? It's
demand
not because we
function.
decided that that's the way it should be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a town with 600 people in it. We didn't have paved roads. You worried about, we didn't have curbs, we didn't have
Well,
any of
Tom says we don't either.
We don't either. In
So-
fact, tar and gravel would be
And,
better.
back where I lived, we have some of these same conversations. That town has changed as well. You know, it's hard in where we sit to always thread that needle in a way that everybody can understand. There's things we can do and we can't do. Roads we own, roads we don't own. And to your point, there's market forces here. When the kids are commuting into the city, they can't touch the rent down there. They can hop on a train here, live in an apartment, walk across the street, get on the train, and they're in town in 45 minutes. There's an economic driver there. It's not just happening in Pleasantville. It's happening in towns all around here.
Yeah, I know. Pleasantville is New York City North now.
Well,
It's been that way for quite a while.
It's a good way to think about it, though, seriously, because there are many bad ways that suburbs can develop. And suburbs, you know, whether they're a good idea to begin with is a whole other question. But you have to realize that one thing that is impossible within commuting distance of a major growing metropolis is stasis, is a lack of change. It's impossible because as the economic engine builds, it pushes wealth out. So Manhattan gets more expensive, so people move to Brooklyn. Brooklyn gets more expensive, so people move to outer boroughs and to suburbs. And when we face that, we have a few choices. We can become moribund single-family houses with no connection between one another. You know, essentially very expensive, highly taxed, garden lots with no businesses, no services, no connection to each other. And you see towns and villages in Westchester that look like that. They look very beautiful, but there really is no civic life. Or we can do the best that we can to create things that bring us together and, create a space, but it's going to be change either way. So these are all compromises. They all produce unintended consequences. They all produce bad things and good things. And what we try to do over time is to minimize the unwanted effects and maintain the essential character of the town, even though what it looks like will change. There's no way to avoid that.
But I think we all feel strongly that we want to preserve the character of Pleasantville. You know, it's unique. You know, I had conversations the night of the firefighters parade with a number of people who had moved here at different times. And I think it's remarkable what an attachment people have. And an event like that, I think, really is a good example. There had been a tragic event the previous week, a father of 2 young children who died very suddenly of a heart attack, and there were hundreds of people who showed up at his memorial service, and a lot of those same people were there the night of the firefighters parade, and everybody feels that sense of community, and that includes people who have moved here recently as well. And I think that we on the board all feel very strongly that that's the most important thing to preserve. And what that means on a day-to-day basis in terms of the choices that we make, that can be tricky figuring that out. But that, I think, really is at the core of what we're trying to do.
Correct.
Okay.
So my little, just to close the exchange on to give you a sense of where I come from. When we first moved here, we didn't have any kids. Back in the 80s, I was a commuter to the city, and I recall saying to folks when we bought a house here that Pleasantville had one of everything. You could go to Barclays Hardware. There were multiple places to buy shoes. There were, reasonable places to do all of your typical shopping. And it wasn't too far later that Barry Cornell decided to hang up his spurs and sell Barclays Hardware. And with absolutely no qualifications of any kind other than the fact that I am deeply fond of hardware stores, I actually called up and said, what would it cost to buy that thing? It's probably fortunate that I didn't have the money because it probably would have driven me into bankruptcy. But, you know, if I could turn back the clock into a world that looked like that, I would. But none of that has anything to do with anything any of us collectively have done. And amid all the changes that have happened, I can say with conviction, having had a ringside seat on it, that the community has weathered those changes and in lots of ways prospered amid them. And as Nicole was saying, for lots of us at least, hasn't lost the core attraction that got us here and kept us here. And I'm happy to report that the former housewares and toys on the second floor of Barclays Hardware upstairs at 25 Wheeler is right now under construction and getting a big investment to improve, to create some really nice office space up there. But we're not getting back a hardware store. And if someone was crazy enough to try, they, I think, would be unsuccessful. So the world is just different. But the Zen of Pleasantville has kept it vibrant, and folks like you and me have stayed here all these years, in part because of those very virtues. So you wouldn't have to suffer through my monologue if I had bought Barclays Hardware, because I would have been driven into bankruptcy and I would live in, I don't know where. So,
Okay.
All right. Well,
final thought. I revisit an offer I've made to you if it's ever helpful. You tell me when and where, I'll show up in somebody's living room with you and other folks who have the same concerns you have and kick it around as long as you
The
want.
next time you show up, I want you to show up at the DPW and fix the roads.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
It's a bad idea if the mayor starts driving a steamroller.
That might be a good idea.
Just leave it there. We'll get the job done.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As always, Tom, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Any other comment from the public or call-ins at 769-1677?
Can you mention affordable housing, the 10% set aside?
Yes, Shane, thank you for that. Shane called out from the back further to the discussion we were having about the cost of housing. We have a zoning code, as many do in Westchester, that requires that any new construction of 10 or more units, 10% of those units need to be set aside for affordable housing. Affordable in most of those circumstances being identified as affordable according to the Housing and Urban Development Guidelines for individuals or families whose income is 80% or less of the average median income for that family size. So no doubt real estate's expensive here. Lots of folks who own a home have benefited mightily by that, but it cuts both ways and it makes it harder for regular folks to find a place to live. So to the extent that the 10% set aside helps, there it be. Thank you, Shane. All right, resolutions 139.
Okay. Whereas introductory local law 3 of 2019 was introduced to amend the zoning map of the Village of Pleasantville to extend the Central Business Parking Overlay District, CBP. Whereas the extension of the Central Business Parking Overlay District is part of the proposed action undergoing a coordinated review by the Planning Commission as lead agency pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, for the development of a 4-story mixed-use building consisting of 79 apartments and street-level retail along Memorial Plaza, along with the 3-level parking garage, including 150 parking spaces, located at 70 Memorial Plaza, proposed by Pleasantville Lofts LLC. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville shall hold a public hearing concerning introductory local law 3 of 2019 on June 24, 2019 at 8 p.m. at Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, to consider the proposed local law. Be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby refers the local law to the Village Planning Commission for report and recommendation. Be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby directs referral of the local law pursuant to the General Municipal Law and Westchester County Administrative Code to the Westchester County Planning Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this refers to the project at 70 Memorial Plaza. We have what's called a parking overlay district, which was a zoning code amendment that was enacted something like 20 years ago, which essentially says retail stores in the downtown are exempt from a parking requirement, but restaurants continue to have a parking requirement. When that code was established, it included the entire downtown business district, but it did not include a piece of the 70 Memorial property. We think likely because that piece was at the time a 50-foot high rock. So the result of that is that the owner and developer has said every other commercial property is part of the overlay district. Only a piece of mine is because of this historical fact. And so the public hearing is to discuss and to hear comment on extending it to include the balance of his property. Fairly described, Derek? Have I got it?
Yep.
Okay. Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 140, Steve.
Whereas introductory local law 4 of 2019 was introduced to amend Chapter 185, Article 1, Section 3, concerning definitions, to repeal Chapter 185, Article 7A, Section 35.1 concerning telecommunications facilities, and to adopt Chapter 185, Article 7A, Section 35.1 concerning wireless telecommunications facilities. And whereas the purpose of this local law is to update the village's wireless telecommunications facilities regulations, bring the village's provisions into compliance with the recent wireless infrastructure order, and exercise the village's authority to preserve the aesthetic values of the community and to protect the public safety and welfare. The Village of Pleasantville hopes to facilitate the deployment of 5G and other next-gen infrastructure to bring greater connectivity to the community through forward-thinking policies and fair and reasonable regulations. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville shall hold a public hearing concerning introductory local law 4 of 2019 on June 24th, 2019 at 8 p.m. at Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, to consider the proposed law. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby refers the local law to the Village Planning Commission for report and recommendation. And also further resolved that the same board directs the direct referral of local law pursuant to the general municipal law and Westchester County Administrative Code to the Westchester County Planning Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
A storm of words.
Yeah, that was fun.
Eric,
Those
Yeah.
are my favorite resolutions.
you want to summarize there?
So, as many of you may have read, these carriers are now transitioning to 5G, and there's going to be infrastructure that comes along with that. So right now, we're used to monopoles with a bunch of different carriers co-locating on that pole and providing service across a wide area. 5G now requires what's known as small cells.
Right.
And then they can be placed on buildings, on utility poles, and public right-of-way. And we're very restricted in our ability to say where they cannot locate these.
Restricted
So-
by the FCC.
Correct.
Right.
And so it's twofold. They have updated the rules and regulations, so we're now amending our local law to go hand in hand with those guidelines. And we're also putting as much restrictions as we can legally to ensure aesthetically, public safety, these things are all addressed. And we're very limited in our capacity to do it, but we're taking, we're going to that line.
Will we have some pictures at the public hearing so people can have an
Yep,
idea
and
of what we're talking about?
uploaded to the work session agenda, which is available to the public, is a great PowerPoint presentation that Keenan Bean, our village attorneys, put together. It has pictures, the whole nine. It explains the technology. So we've seen a lot of neighboring communities start taking this step to kind of protect their local zoning. But again, the federal government restricts local government's ability
To really get in the way.
exactly. So
And I mean, it's obviously there's a public policy aspect to that that's understandable. I will say that recent developments at the Federal Communications Commission have, on many different subjects, limited local control of all kinds of things, and I'm sure many of you have thread about issues like net neutrality and the like. Bottom line being, certainly from the standpoint of the physical infrastructure of this stuff in the village of Pleasantville, getting out ahead of it to the extent that we're legally entitled is the right thing to do. And
Just to note, the next resolution is essentially taking out an old chapter of our local zoning code or village code dealing with antennas. So we're combining that into a new.
Getting it into the new.
Correct.
all right, so all in favor of Resolution 140, which is to schedule a public hearing on June 24th to
Anybody
consider
second?
this local law.
Do we have a second?
Did we have a second? We had a second.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Now, David, 141, the next storm of words.
Mine was
Resolution number 2019-141, scheduled public hearing on June 24th, 2019, to consider introducing local law 5 of 2019 to repeal Chapter 185, Article 7B, Section 35.2, concerning antennas. Whereas introductory local law 5 of 2019 was introduced to repeal Article 7B, Section 35.1 concerning antennas, and whereas the village board has adopted a revised comprehensive wireless telecommunications facilities law that addresses applications for and impacts from all wireless telecommunications facilities in the village of Pleasantville, and therefore it is appropriate to appeal Village Code 185-35.1 in its entirety at this time. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Board of Trustees in the village of Pleasantville shall hold a public hearing concerning introductory local law 5 of 2019 on June 24th, 2019 at 8 p.m. at Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, to consider the proposed local law. Be it further resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby refers the local law to the Village Planning Commission for report and recommendation. Be it further resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby directs referral of the local law pursuant to the general municipal law and Westchester County Administrative Code to the Westchester County Planning Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
So, further to the description Eric just gave, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. And then just to remind folks, as Eric already referred, the backup to this and the presentation from Keenan Bean and PowerPoint and the like are all available as backup to the agenda in our online system called Novus Agenda. You can get to it at pleasantville-ny.gov and clicking into agendas. Also an opportunity to remind people, as I did earlier, that if you sign up for news, you can sign up not only for general news, but also to get an emailed agenda. And that emailed agenda has links direct into Novus Agenda for the Village Board, for the Planning Commission, for the Zoning Board, Architectural Review Board. A great way to have a chance to just breeze through the subjects that are likely to be discussed. Click into the backup if you care to do so. So, happily, 142 is short and easy.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the request by the Superintendent of Recreation and Parks to establish annually a seasonal petty cash fund in the amount of $30 for the purpose of making change at the village pool.
Is there a second?
Second. And be it further resolved.
No public hearing required.
No, unless you want to. Unless you want to.
$30?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Can we briefly hold the resolution? Eric, you want to comment about the trouble we've had with the kiddie pool, since we're talking about the pool, and give people a heads up about where it stands?
Sure. So before the pool opened, the week leading up to Memorial Day, park staff and our superintendent of Parks and Rec started noticing stress fractures or cracks on one side of the pool where they didn't previously exist, and water has been leaking out. So we'd had to close the pool for a variety of reasons. You're losing water, your chemicals don't work as well when you're losing that much water. So we've been troubleshooting the issue. We had the pool pressure tested, which showed leaks coming from about, I'd say, a third of the radius of the pool, which means we have to do additional testing. So at this point, we're looking, the very least of being offline for about 2 to 3 weeks as we try to figure out what the problem is. If it is a crack or a break in the return line, we can spend some money to get that fixed, but it's looking like it'll be about $27,000 to $30,000 to do that.
Just the kiddie pool.
It is for the kiddie pool alone. there's more digging in to do. We have to talk to Jeff Econom, who brought up some other concerns and some additional costs that could be associated with a project like that. Again, we just had that test done today, so we're kind of debriefing on it. But
How would if the return line, how would that cause a stress fracture in the bowl?
well, it could have made the whole foundation weak around.
And then the
The
weight
water
of the
starts
water.
making its way
I
around.
mean, you know, when you walk on it,
Yeah,
you can feel
sure.
it sink a little bit, and
Really?
more water comes out. So,
Really not good.
so if it is just a crack, you know, we can get that fixed, and it's a lot more of a long-term fix. But there is the possibility that it's a more substantial issue. In the meantime, the town of Mount Pleasant, at least for this past weekend, had agreed to cross on our
Okay.
our
Oh,
pool
that's
passes, and we'll obviously go back to them and talk about a more long-term arrangement. But at this point,
So
this is
it's,
where
as
things
you
lie.
heard, it's a struggle. Our goal is to get the kiddie pool back up and running as quickly as we possibly can. It's not clear what quickly is, and just to be clear, the main pool, the big pool, is fully functional and
Correct.
completely operational, and this was a completely unforeseen development. We know folks have expressed concern about whether they're getting the value out of the membership, and obviously we're quite early in the season, but depending on how this plays out, we'll have more discussion about that. Certainly want everybody to feel as though we're doing everything we possibly can. So, all right, brief aside there. 143, Steve.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village mayor to sign the agreement with Food Chester, Inc. to operate the Pleasantville Farmers Market through November 30th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the agreement is attached, is essentially parallel to the agreement that already exists.
Right, exactly.
Comments, questions?
Nope.
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 144, David.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to execute a revocable license agreement to include a legalization fee of $1,500 with Brian and Anna Gavin, 27 Temple Place, to permit landscape regrading, retaining wall, and landscaping in the village right-of-way.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is the evolution of an ongoing discussion, including some work that had been done in the village right-of-way without such an agreement. And pursuant to what you just heard, we have agreed to a revocable right-of-way agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. 145, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the Payment Factor Adjustment Amendment B 2018-2019 Snow and Ice Agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation.
Is there a second?
Second. So standard is what we do every year, right?
Well, yeah, they're giving us more money.
Oh, good.
Not a lot.
Now about 10,000.
Yeah. Well, I'll take it. God knows.
$1,393.
But only when we return 4 copies. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A lot of paper.
Motion approved. We have not arrived at the paperless
Do we
government.
fax it over there?
Yeah, right.
Put it on the
146.
Me. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request by the Superintendent of Recreation and Parks to waive the late fees for 2 summer camp registrations being funded by the Pleasantville Union Free School District.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 147, David.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees, based upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Recreation and Parks, hereby approves the request by Northeast Westchester Special Recreation, Inc. to conduct recreational swim activities for program participants and staff at the Village Pool on Tuesday and Friday afternoons for the 2019 pool season.
Is there a second?
Second.
We're part of the Northeast Westchester
Right.
Special Recreation Program. Matt Trainer, our new superintendent, is, I believe, on the board.
Correct.
A good program. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 148, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the additional scope of work associated with the resurfacing of the Foxwood Tennis Court resurfacing project to include installation of pickleball court dimensions at a cost of $1,025 and resurfacing of the practice court at a cost of $9,800.
Is there a second?
Second.
So pickleball is available. A bunch of people have asked
Yes, it
about
is. Yep.
whether it would be possible to have a pickleball court. So we now have pickleball lines on a tennis court,
Correct.
right?
An adjustable netting.
And an adjustable net, so you can adjust it to pickleball height.
That's why we have to resurface the practice court?
Well, so the practice court wasn't included in the original bid specs.
Yeah, it really needs
But it really needs the work, and the project came in significantly under budget, so we have the money in the capital account.
Okay.
So while
Great.
That's
the
good.
contractor's available, can do it, so we thought it's worth the investment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Before we leave that, can we talk at some point about the fence that's near there? We've talked about it sort of offline a
Yeah.
bunch of times,
Yes.
but one of these days, let's put it on a work session and just
Okay,
figure
sure.
out what we can do there.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, 149.
Did you do the last one? Yeah. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village mayor to sign a 5-year renewable joint use agreement with the Pleasantville Union Free School District.
Is there a second?
Second.
That agreement is also attached and available in the Novus agenda backup, and it largely tracks the existing agreement.
Exactly. Correct.
Essentially identifies the various facilities that the school district uses that the village owns, and the various facilities that the village uses that the school district owns, and renews our joint and fervently held commitment to cooperate in that way at no cost to either entity. Comments, questions?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 150, David.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the proposal form Public Sector HR Consultants LLC for the development and implementation of an employee handbook for the fee of $5,850.
Is there a second?
Second.
Eric, you want to?
Sure. So this handbook is comprised, or would be comprised, of a variety of different policies. Many of them are mandated by the state of New York, so the village must get in compliance with them. This group has worked with a variety of villages and towns throughout Westchester County. So we think it's important. The village has never had an employee handbook before, and it's
Really?
something that we think
Okay.
is important, should be prioritized.
And what sort of a schedule would it be on?
We'll
To-
have
to
initial
produce it.
conversations,
Yeah.
probably I would say about 3 months, 3
Okay.
to 4 months. And then there'll be a rollout and implementation, which the consultants will also help us with.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 151.
Me.
Nicole.
Excuse me. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes of the meetings, the minutes of the meeting held on May 13th, 2019 and May 29th, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
No, we both said second at the same time.
So who won, Nick, Noreen?
Good work.
It's the first time ever.
I don't know, you're closer. She
He's
hears
like
you
a
first.
fighter
Speed of
pilot
sound.
over there.
Yeah. So again, approving 2 minutes. The second, the meeting on Monday, May 29th, was a very brief meeting among 3 of us, the purpose of which was to move forward the check register on a week that included a holiday and didn't otherwise have a Monday meeting. Comments, corrections to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 152.
152. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the resignation of Jeanette Andre as a school crossing guard effective June 22nd, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
He waited.
Now everyone's getting
There's a
reticent.
pause.
I would
I
have
feel
given it
less
to you.
strongly about that one.
All right. We thank Jeanette Andre for her service. Her last day of employment, June 21, waiting for the end of school. So,
And for the public, that's the crossing guard station at the Sawmill Crossing in Grand Street, so she does a
Okay.
great job.
She really
owns
does.
it.
Yeah.
see
her every day.
Yeah, in a tough,
Tough spot.
in
That
a
is a
tough
tough
spot.
spot.
So,
Police chief gonna somebody else?
Yeah.
thank you, Jeanette, for having done a good job in a tough location. Very much appreciate your service. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have often mused, what happens if we don't vote to accept a
Right,
resignation?
what happens?
Does it
You
come
are
out to
not subject to the needs of the
indentured
service.
servitude? All right, 153.
Resolved, the check register dated June 10th, 2019 for fiscal year 2019 covering check numbers 93472 to 93569 is hereby approved as listed below. From the general fund, $143,572.37. The water fund, $12,824.08. The capital fund, $11,350. The refuse fund, $2,664.38. The trust fund, $3,021 for a total of $173,431.83.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we have two check registers tonight because our fiscal year has just switched. It begins June 1, and so this refers to the fiscal year ending May 31, 2019. Comments or questions on the check register?
Negative.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. If only we could skip the next one for this fiscal year, which is $434,000. 154, Nicole.
Resolved that the check register dated June 10th, 2019 for fiscal year 2020, covering check numbers 93570 to 93672 is hereby approved as listed below. From the general fund, $393,869.46. From the water fund, $18,313.84. From the refuse fund, $13,943.14 for a total of $434,126.44.
Is there a second?
Second.
You'd hate to think that the check register couldn't be passed for lack of a second.
I was looking at the check register.
Yeah.
first,
There you
but
go.
yeah.
A large number driven in significant part by $170,000 sent to the health insurance fund. So combination of things at the beginning of the fiscal year. Hit us with a big number. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
And we officially paid for our part of the bleachers this time, right?
We did, and thank you for pointing that out. Those of you who have looked out the right side of your tour bus as you head down Marble Avenue towards the sawmill may have noticed that the bleachers disappeared and they have reappeared again. Those bleachers actually belong to the school district, but through the assistance of former State Senator Terrence Murphy, a grant that ultimately amounted to $200,000 was acquired. The village contributed $35,000 to the project. The old bleachers were taken down and recycled. A new concrete slab was poured with the guidance of our Superintendent of Public Works, Jeff Econom, and new ADA compliant bleachers have been built, which are not only ADA compliant, which is obviously a good thing in and of itself, but also are elevated so that they don't have the problem the old bleachers had, which is that the first few levels of seats are undesirable when a whole lot of people are standing in front of you. So thank you to former Senator Terrence Murphy. I want to thank the offices of our current State Senator Peter Harcum, who assisted mightily in getting the last piece of that together and delivering it on our behalf. And thanks to the school district for what in the end is a happy resolution of a somewhat complicated venture. So,
Yep.
Okay, any further comment? New business? Comment from the public? You're all tired of hearing us talk. Thank you all for your attention. Our next regular meeting is in 2 weeks on Monday, June 24. Is there a motion to adjourn and return to work session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Thank you and good night. See you in 2 weeks.